What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today is the day that Ancient Fairy Dragon is finally unbanned. It is off the list because it was errated in Maze of Memories, so to celebrate one of my favorite cards coming back, we're going to go ahead and give you a deck profile of one of my favorite decks, and that is going to be ABC, but there is going to be a twist. It is ABC, P.U.N.K, Therion, so quite a few things rolled up into one, but Ancient Fairy Dragon makes it absolutely insane. I'm planning on doing a fully dedicated combo tutorial, so if you guys want to see that, let's go ahead and get this up to 100 likes. If we can do that by Monday, I will go ahead and drop that video on Monday, so let's go ahead and show you guys the build. So to kick things off, we obviously have our ABC pieces, and we are playing 2 copies of A Assault Core, 3 copies of B Buster Drake, and 2 copies of C Crush Wyvern. You don't really need to max out on all these pieces other than B. B is the best one. It's the one, if you're gonna open any piece, it's the one you want to open. Not just that, but it can also do some really cool things like make your end board immune to spells, such as Dark Ruler, Super Poly, because some people are still citing that. So B is the most important one, thus it's at 3. The other ones you don't really need that much, so 2 is perfectly fine. And the final honorary ABC piece is going to be the Union Driver. This is the only card in your deck that you really just don't want to open, but even if you do, it's not the end of the world, because the other engines can supplement this really well, where you can not necessarily need it in order to complete your combo. So that's going to be it for the actual ABC cards. Then we are playing only 2 copies of Therion King Regulus, and that is going to do it for the Therion package. This is incredible in this deck because it allows you to equip your ABC pieces from the graveyard, and then because of the way that Union monsters work, the ABC pieces will be able to re-special summon themselves from being equipped, and that doesn't turn off your Regulus, so it's perfectly fine, and all it does is add some form of extension into your plays. Now onto the P.U.N.K engine. It's also relatively small. We are playing 2 copies of No P.U.N.K Zeaman, 1 copy of Deer Note, and then 2 copies of Foxy Tune. This is really all that you need. You might maybe consider a second Deer Note just because there are decks like Kashtira that are banishing cards off the top of your deck, and if you lose out on the Deer Note, it could potentially hinder your combo, but it really isn't all that necessary. While playtesting this deck, I saw that a lot of times I wasn't even going into the Deer Note, and that the Zeaman plus A4 to go into Ancient Fairy Dragon was just perfectly good in and of itself. So it really is kind of hit or miss. That might be something that I test in the future, but I'm not really sure, so we'll just have to see. Next, we are on 2 copies of Destrudo. This card is really cool because obviously it lets you make Ancient Fairy Dragon off of any of your monsters, and not just that, but you can also very easily send it to the graveyard. We are playing cards like Dragon Ravine and Dragon Shrine, which we'll see later on in the build, and because we are playing those, we are also playing 1 copy of Supreme King Dragon Darkworm. This is literally nothing else other than a extender. This is probably a flex spot in the deck, so you can replace this with anything that you want. I personally like it because it just adds a little bit of an extension, especially if you open up something like Dragon Ravine. You can pitch a card that you don't necessarily need, or if you open the Darkworm or the Destrudo, you can pitch it off the Dragon Ravine to then go ahead and get access to the other, and as long as you have no monsters, you can summon this from your grave, so it really does just add a little bit of push to start your turn off with. And then a really cool option that we are playing is going to be Cyber-Stein. Now, Cyber-Stein is a machine, meaning that ABCs can search it inherently by one of the cards that they always play in their extra deck. That is going to be Gear Gigant X, which just searches a level 4 or lower machine. But the really cool part is now that Ancient Fairy Dragon is back, you can use Ancient Fairy's effect to special summon the Cyber-Stein from your hand, and that just lets you go into some really cool stuff, which we'll show you later on. Now we are playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. This is just the most generic hand trap, so obviously it's going to see the most generic play. And then we have 1 copy of Ghost Ogre. This is another flex spot in the deck. The only reason that this is here is because the P.U.N.K Jam Dragon is able to go ahead and search this as a level 3 Psychic, so it does add a little bit of interruption if you need to go that route, but honestly you can pretty much replace this with anything that you want. That's going to do it for the monsters. Onto the spells. We are playing a few one-ofs. We have 1 Called by the Grave, 1 Dragon Shrine, 1 Set Rotation, and 1 Terraforming. These are the cards that we need in order to make sure that we have maximum consistency, especially the Set Rotation. Set Rotation is pretty much able to get us into any play that we want to play in combination with the other cards in our hand, so it's very important. Now we are playing 3 copies of Emergency Teleport. This is to supplement the P.U.N.K engine. Obviously we want to be able to get into our Zeoman without needing to normal summon it, but even if we need to normal summon it, it's not the end of the world because of cards like Ancient Fairy Dragon letting us special summon our ABC pieces as well. But obviously we want to max out on this just because the less normal summoning we have to do, the better. Now onto some field spells. We are playing 2 copies of Dragon Ravine. A lot of people are only playing this at 1. I think it's really good at 2. 1 for you to use and 1 for you to give your opponent offset rotation. I feel like this is the least offensive one to give them offset rotation, so not that it necessarily matters, because if you're gonna set rotation 9 times out of 10, you're just gonna nuke both field spells with something like Ancient Fairy Dragon anyway, but just in case you don't, I feel like this is the one you want to give them. We are playing 2 copies of Therion Disc Coliseum. We don't need this at 3 because we have multiple ways of searching it in our deck. Obviously we have set rotation, we have terraforming, Gigantic Champion Sargus in the extra deck is able to get it, as well as the Ancient Fairy Dragon is able to get it as well, so you don't need to max out on it, but we are maxing out on 3 copies of Union Hanger. Union Hanger is the most important part of this strategy, obviously, so you have to play it at 3. You definitely want to make sure that you see this card at all costs, and that's going to do it for the spells. Onto the traps, we are just playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Acts as another hand trap, another form of disruption. If we go first, we can set it, and that's going to be pretty standard. 40 cards in the main. Let's show you guys the extra. Now, the extra's got some pretty cool cards. Let's go ahead and show you guys what we've got. We are playing 3 copies of the ABC Dragon Buster. Obviously, this is the bread and butter of the ABC combo, so we have to max out on this. You could potentially play 2. I'm not sure what you would replace it with, but I really like 3, especially for grind games. It's very, very helpful. Not to mention the fact that if you are playing into something like Kashtira, they can rip them out, so you pretty much should max out on it, but I can definitely see an argument for only running 2. And now we are playing 1 copy of Naturia Exterio. This is really cool because of the Cyber-Stein play. You're able to just spam this onto your field, or cheat it onto your field, by using the effect of Cyber-Stein. Paying 5,000 life points is definitely a very hefty cost, but when you're backing it up with cards like Therion, ABC Dragon Buster, as well as a potential Appaloosa, it's pretty strong. Your opponent's really not going to be able to out your board at that point. Then onto the Synchro monsters, the one and only Ancient Fairy Dragon. This is what makes this deck so absolutely explosive. Both of its effects are incredible. Honestly, I don't think the errata fixed this card. The fact that the only change to this was that you can only search a field spell with a different name than those destroyed doesn't necessarily make a difference, especially because we're playing 3 field spells. So even in the case of us set rotationing our opponent, we're going to destroy 2 field spells and have a 3rd name to search. So I just think that this errata is absolutely nuts, not to mention the fact that you just special summon a monster for free. That adds so much unnecessary extension into any deck that wants to play this card. I definitely see this card getting banned again, but now it's back. It's one of my favorite cards. Obviously, I'm going to abuse it. Then we are playing F.A. Dawn Dragster. This is just another 7 that we can add into our combo. We have multiple ways of making 7s with both the P.U.N.K engine and the Destrudo, so if we can make this off of either engine, we can make this off of the other, and that just adds another form of interruption to our end board as well, especially in hands where we're not necessarily able to go for the Cyber-Stein route, because this would only stop what the Exterio stops, but sometimes you pay too many life points between your P.U.N.Ks and your Destrudo that you don't necessarily have 5,000 that you can expend, so this is a very strong backup option. Then we have the P.U.N.K Jam Dragon Drive. This is really cool because it lets you kind of cheat your way into the Therion engine, since you're able to do the rank 8 play that P.U.N.Ks do to go into the Gigantic Champion Sargus. Not to mention it also searches your Ghost Ogre, but it's really mostly for that Sargus play. And then the last synchro that we're playing is the 1 copy of Baron de Flor. This is very easy to make, especially if you still have a Zeoman on your field at the time that you're using the Ancient Fairy Dragon, because Ancient Fairy Dragon is a level 7, plus the level 3 Zeoman goes into a Baron, and that adds an Omni Negate onto your board on top of the Omni Negate we already have with the King Regulus as well. We are only playing 2 XYZs. We have the Gear Gigant X. This can search any of your ABC pieces as well as your Cyber-Stein, and we have the Gigantic Champion Sargus. This is part of how you can force yourself into the Therion package if you don't necessarily see your way into Ancient Fairy Dragon, again with the P.U.N.K Jam Dragon being an 8, and the fact that the Deer Note can resummon out your Foxy Tune, which is also an 8, so really strong card. Then we are playing a Platinum Gadget. This is again just more extension. You're going to be searching a lot of cards off of your B Buster Drake, so you might as well be able to special them with the Platinum Gadget, and because the Platinum Gadget can't be used as Link material the turn that it's summoned, that kind of forces us to play IP Masquerena, because IP Masquerena with Platinum Gadget can go ahead and force you into some really good cards during your opponent's turn, such as either Nightmare Unicorn or Appaloosa Bow of Goddess. Either way, this is a way for you to just kind of interrupt your opponent, whether it be spinning something they control or being able to put at least least 2 negates on the field, possibly more depending on what else you have. And the final card in the extra deck is going to be the Access Code Talker. This is just a really strong way to push for game. Obviously, it's going to be super easy to make during your opponent's turn, especially with the fact that you're able to spam out ABC pieces by tagging out your Dragon Buster, so I think it's really strong, and that's going to be the extra deck. And there you guys have it. That is going to be the ABC P.U.N.K Therion deck profile, featuring one of my favorite cards of all time, Ancient Fairy Dragon. I think this is absolutely insane, and again, if you want to see a dedicated combo tutorial for this video, let's get this to 100 likes by Monday. It is currently Friday when this is going up, so you've got a couple of days to do it. I think you guys can do it. If you liked it, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, and maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.